Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, he used to narrate a hadith, and it's said that when he would narrate this particular hadith, he would fall to his knees. And this is the famous hadith where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he tells us about three types of people who will be called by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the Day of Judgment and questioned. The first of those people is someone who was a martyr, who gave his life in fighting injustice. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings him forward and he asks him, he says, I gave you life. What did you do with it? He will say, God, I gave my life in your cause. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will stop him and he will say, kadhabt, you lied. Rather, you fought so you can be called courageous, and you got what you wanted, so enter the fire. The second type of person is a scholar or a qari. The narrations mention both, someone who's a scholar or a Quran reciter. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will tell him, I gave you ilm, I gave you knowledge, I gave you Quran. What did you do with it? He will say, God, I used to teach people, I used to recite the Quran, I used to give da'wah, I used to write books, I used to do all of this stuff. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say to him, kadhabt, you lied. You did it so you can be called a scholar. You got what you wanted, so enter the fire. The third type of person is a rich man, a wealthy man who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used to give, or who this person used to give lots of sadaqah, sponsored orphans, donated to masajid, built hospitals, built masajid, did all of these things. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will tell him, I gave you wealth. What did you do with it? He will say, Allah, I gave it in your cause. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say, kadhabt, you lied. You wanted to be called generous, you got what you wanted, so enter the fire. These three deeds are some of the best deeds you can do. At the external level, martyrdom, scholarship, sadaqah. The Quran is full of verses that praises all of these things. However, there is something wrong, not with the deed itself, but something inside that made the entire deed rotten, and that is Riya, or showing off, or seeking praise. This is something that you can't really look at someone and project onto them or know what's in their heart. This is something that every person needs to externally look inside and, look at themselves. This is not for someone to say, yeah, that person is a show off or this. It's really for us to look in ourselves. The reality is that someone can sometimes begin sincerely, and then when they get the benefits of their action, it may take them off path if they don't constantly do this muhasabah of themselves and auditing of themselves. In reality, there's a social benefit to being a speaker. There's a social benefit to being a scholar, or to being someone who's active in the community or active for justice. There's a social benefit, which is people tend to respect you. People think of you good. People want to, take care of you. People want to treat you well. There's many benefits to this. And the benefits in and of themselves, there's no problem with it. The problem becomes when the benefit becomes the whole purpose. The whole thing becomes about the person seeking the praise rather than the action itself. The problem becomes when you work to be seen as righteous rather than being righteous. When being seen as good is more important to you than actually being good. There is 4 things, inshallah, I will mention here that maybe can help all of us deal with this and overcome it. The first is muhasabah, self-audit. The Muslim is not someone who is on autopilot. The Muslim is not someone who is in ghafla. The Muslim is someone who is constantly checking his intention, who's constantly questioning himself, and who's constantly correcting himself. We're all human beings. Everyone will go off track, once in a while, but the Muslim always checks himself and brings himself back. So this is one thing to do. Pause and ask yourself, why do I do what I am doing? If I am not doing it sincerely, or if there's something wrong, or if I feel something is not there, let me try to correct that. The second, perhaps piece of advice that may help is always have an action where you are doing it sincerely and secretly between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nobody knows about that. No human being on earth knows about it. It's not shared online. It's not posted on Instagram. You don't talk about it. You take it with you to your grave. It's between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This can be a 2 rak'ahs that you pray in the night, in the darkness of the night, between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This can be a sadaqah that you give between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It could be someone you help, anything. Just pick something and make sure that you always have something that is secured there between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The third thing is a dua, right? Making dua. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam he has taught us actually this dua, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika an ushrika bika shay'an a'lamu. Allah, I seek refuge with you from worshipping or to associating someone with you that I know. وَأَسْتَغْفِرُكَ لِمَا لَا أَعْلَمُ. And I seek your forgiveness for that which I don't know. There are sometimes things that are subconscious that we are not aware of, asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for that. The fourth, and these aren't in a particular order, but the fourth is a very beautiful one by Ibn Ata'illah al-Iskandari, where he gives this powerful analogy. He says, when someone praises you, what should your reaction be? How should you take this? Because sometimes, if someone is constantly being praised, or they're in a leadership position, or they're in a teaching position, or they are in whatever, activist, whatever position they are in, and they are always being told, you're great, you're great, you're great, you're good, mashallah alaik, all of these different things, it can sometimes lead them to believe it. Ibn Ata'illah, he says, when someone praises you, the best way to deal with this is to recognize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is concealing your faults. This is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala concealing your faults. How so? Each one of us has skeletons in our closet. Each one of us has things we don't want people to know about. Each one of us has shortcomings. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could have exposed that to the world. However, He chose to conceal that, and also not only conceal it, but show our good side. So it's like you are a product, or I am a product that has things in it that are wrong, right? Like if I wanted to sell you a car or sell you a phone or something, and I only show you one side of it that is good, the other side is full of scratches. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is doing to me and you. When someone comes and praises us, don't let that get to my head, because instead this is Allah showing only the side of me that has no scratches. The other side is full of scratches. So let that ground me, and let that make me more humble to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, more in love with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is definitely a pleasure in being praised. There's a pleasure in being recognized. This is, the nafs wants this. The nafs wants to be, it loves these things, to be admired and all of these things, and to be given, validated. The nafs loves these things. However, this pleasure, if you begin seeking it, it will become pleasurable just in that moment, and after that it becomes painful. The best pleasure, the longest lasting pleasure, is the pleasure of being connected with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sincerely. Two of my favorite verses on this topic. One is from Surah Al-Insan, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says about the believers who feed people, who give sadaqah. They say, إِنَّمَا نُطْعِمُكُمْ لِوَجْهِ اللَّهِ. We are giving you food for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. لَا نُرِيدُ مِنْكُمْ جَزَاءً وَلَا شُكُورًا. We don't want any kind of payment from you, a materialistic thing. I'm not looking for that. And I don't want a shakura, a words, right? You have the jaza, which is a physical reward, and you have a shukura, which is a sentimental thing, right? Something someone says, meaningful things. They say, I'm not doing it for either one of these. This is not to say that if someone does good, we should not pay them or recognize them or thank them. That's not what we're talking about here. The person should be thanked. The person should be given for their work. The point is that person should not be seeking that. That should not be their end goal. The second verse I end with is that of Surah Al-Layl. الَّذِي يُؤْتِي مَالَهُ يَتَزَكَّى. The one who gives his wealth to purify himself. Again, we began with the giving of the wealth. The man who gave sadaqah. This person here, he gives مَالَهُ, he gives his wealth to purify himself. وَمَا لِأَحَدٍ عِنْدَهُ مِنْ نِعْمَةٍ تُجْزَى. He's not seeking a reward from any person. Because again, when you give, there is the social benefit of being called generous. This doesn't mean you should not give. This doesn't mean you stop giving. It means that you reorient your heart, because the person who gave sadaqah here in this verse, it's said that he didn't do it. He doesn't want anyone's praise, إِلَّا ابْتِغَاءَ وَجْهِ رَبِّهِ الْأَعْلَى, except seeking the ultimate pleasure of his Lord, the Most High. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us and to always grant us ikhlas and accept our deeds. Alhamdulillah.